Morning, everybody. Thank you for letting me share with you today about delivery optimization and Microsoft Connected Cache internals. Now, let me share why I'm about why I'm calling this internals. Some of the new people in the room. So I have with me today, I have Shashir, Adi, and online I have Carmen. And I don't have them listed on the slide here, but Brandon Hunt. So Jashir and Brandon, for example, who is online, have been around long enough to know where all the proverbial bodies are buried with delivery optimization and Microsoft Connected Cache. So any of those questions that you may have, those kind of deeper questions, problems, things like that, I really want to make this as interactive and as helpful to us all as possible. So with that intro, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. This is where we're planning on going today with this talk. This is just a little lead off slide here to tell you about who we are, where we kind of sit within Microsoft. So you think of us, this is how one of our team members describes, think of us as like the FedEx or the UPS for Microsoft content, right? Content gets produced by Windows in form of the updates, Office, Intune apps that you publish, everything like that. There's that content, and then all the way from the source to CDN and then to those endpoints that we all are managing. We help make that happen with our delivery optimization platform. And that little, I know that at MMS, there's a donut pie chart little war that happens. Well, in this little donut here, I know it's kind of hard to see maybe, but in terms of the content, the blue is Xbox, and then the other 2/3 of the pie is the rest. And you can see this is in the order of terabits per second. I'm not showing you the exact value, but Xbox actually makes up a really large part of the content that gets delivered through our pipelines. We have a service that's handling trillion or more trillion or more operations per month. And so this service all together helps to deliver content to those 2+ million devices. And Carmen has her hand up.
Yeah, I was just curious. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see anybody in the room, but I'm just curious who knows about this technology already, who's familiar with it, and or who's never heard of it.
Sounds like
Most.
sort of. I'm seeing this, Carmen. I see hand raised.
You also asked 2 questions.
Yeah.
2 opposite questions.
Yeah,
we don't
2
know which one we're
opposite
answering.
I've heard of delivery optimization and use DO. Okay. How many people have heard of and have used Microsoft Connected Cache? Okay, so it's a little smaller number. Okay.
Okay.
Drew?
Yes, can you hear me?
Sir. Hey, Drew.
Hi. Yep. So we're testing out the DOINC SCCM option to enable MCC, but we've got plans to inevitably use the standalone MCC options.
Okay. So there we go. So there's something. I don't know if those of us who maybe are not familiar with Connected Cache, which I will share with you there. We actually have 2 different versions. So we think about the delivery optimization platform that I've managed, and I mentioned delivery optimization as the client and the service, and then Microsoft Connected Cache. We're talking about distributed versus dedicated, right? You've got delivery optimization, which is going to utilize peers in some way. And then you have Microsoft Connected Cache, which can sit on premise and act as that local CDN for your content, with the ultimate goal of minimizing that internet bandwidth that you use. And now I'm gonna hand it off to Carmen and Shashir. As I had mentioned before, Shashir, can you raise your hand? BC. Shashir is our principal delivery optimization dev. So as we are working through this, if you have questions about what's being shared or anything that are maybe a little too deep for me, or if you want a little more internals, that's why I brought along Shashir. So, but now I'm going to hand it off to Carmen. Carmen.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, so I think when people talk about delivery optimization, it's usually used synonymously with peer-to-peer. That is kind of, so if you hear about that, that's probably what they're referring to. But truly, it's a downloader first, and then built on top of that are both the peer solution and then the dedicated cache solution, or the MCC that Andy's going to talk about. But just some important things that I wanted to make sure that we all knew in this group when we talk about DO is that it's built into Windows and it's on by default. So we ship it out of the box, and in theory, it's already working for you if our out-of-the-box configurations are optimized for your environment, but it's essentially on. So that's an important thing. Another thing that I run into a lot is associating DO specifically with Windows updates. I'm sure Brandon and Shashir could talk to this further, but I think that's where it started. But it's much more than that today. In fact, we are growing quite a bit in the content space, and this just gives you a few areas that you may or may not be aware, but we are not only delivering content for Windows Update, Office, Edge, Intune, and now some of the AI models that you may or may not be downloading as a part of your new PCs. And then more, and it's going to be, we're constantly looking to grow our ecosystem of content. So that's an important piece. And then oftentimes, so I think there's a couple things when people are getting started with it, and probably our biggest challenge is first and foremost, discovering that we are a thing and that we're on. So that's the first step. And then really before you do anything with it, if you choose to do something with it, is to, you need to monitor what kind of results you're getting out of the box. And so that's where I would point you to the Windows Update for Business report that we have available. And I put a link there. I'm assuming this deck will be shared or can be shared. If not, I can provide links. But that's like our primary way of monitoring the kind of results that you're getting for your environment. If you want to look at a per device, or that would be like for your tenant all up. If you wanted to look at a per device types of monitoring, we have a whole host of different delivery optimization commandlets, PowerShell commandlets that you can run. And these are just a couple of the useful ones that I've put here. But that's something I would point you to as well. So discovering that it's a thing and that it's used all over for Microsoft content, those are probably the first two things. And then what kind of results are you getting? And then if you look at your results and you decide, yeah, I'm getting maybe 15% all up, all my content is being delivered through peering or caching or whatever you have set up. And you want to you see if you can get more out of that, then it's time to look at the configurations and see what knobs and levers and things that we can start tweaking to dial it in for your environment specifically. And when you look at that, it can be a bit overwhelming because there's just over 30 different configurations that we have. So we have all of that documented for you as well. But That's kind of the way I would think about going about, really getting the most out of this. See where you're at, and then start to dial it in. And then we also have some guides in that specific configuration guide, not only all the different configurations documented, but a helpful guide to kind of walk you through what are the types of things I should be thinking about and before I make certain changes. And then there will be recommendations throughout the guide as well about where you can start. So yeah, those were kind of the points that I wanted to cover on at least getting started with DO.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that you may think that your current network is fine, and maybe you're not dealing with any bandwidth issues when it comes to Patch Tuesday. But just wanted to provide, and maybe this is information that you already have, a little LCU size, right? Everybody here knows what the LCU is. It's the latest cumulative update. It's what we ship out every month. The way that Microsoft does cumulative updates, based on your tenant, you're probably not going to be downloading this full content size. But the Windows 10 LCU was about less than 1 gig. Windows 11 23H2 was about 1 gig. But then when we get to Windows 11 24H2 and 25H2 with the addition of AI models, which are now being shipped as part of the LCU. LCU size has grown. I hear somebody chuckling back there to like approximately four gigabytes. Yeah. So if you do that math and multiply it out in your tenant, whether you have 100 devices, 1,000 devices, 10,000 devices, that could be significant bandwidth usage. And so these tools become very important for us to help you optimize that to manage that.
It's only a 400% increase.
AI is going to make our lives better, right? That's the promise, right? That's the promise that AI is going to make our lives better. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, so I mentioned that DO is on, the peering piece is on by default. So we ship with the download mode set to 1, which is the LAN mode. And the way this works is assuming that the content that you're downloading meets the criteria to use peering, which there's several different factors, but the main one that we're calling out here on this slide is that it meets the size limit to use peering. Assuming it does, it will naturally use peers with the same external IP address. So whatever set or whatever group of devices that break out to the internet using the same IP, that will be considered your LAN group peers. And yeah, so when a device does get a list of peers, it can have up to 30 connections concurrently that it's downloading from different sources. So that's something that's important to know. And also, you might see connections to peers or to CDN or even an MCC. All those connections happen in parallel, or they're stood up in parallel in case they're needed. The idea being we're going to favor peers if we can get it from peers, but we're also highly interested in delivering reliably, but also in a timely manner as well. So we're going to get it from essentially the best source that's available to us. And again, this is where you can start dialing in some of those different configs to favor, like if you want to delay some of that stuff. But so that's kind of the default picture. And then, and this might be more interesting to you, but what a lot of our enterprises are doing is to use the download mode 2 or group mode. And with this mode, we either allow you to identify your group using just if you want to use a GUID, or you can use one of many, I think 5 different sources to key off of. So those include things like your Entra ID, an AD site, AD SID, different things that you might use. Another really, or use it within your environment. Another one that's getting even more popular is using DHCP. So if you're using that, we can use that as well. And in this case, it doesn't matter the location of the device itself. If you belong to a group, then that's what it will consider to be in that particular peer group. I do believe that it will look for devices within the local LAN for that group first. And if it can get it from that first, then it will use those. And otherwise it will continue to look outside of your LAN for group or devices within your group.
Yeah, so in this case, you can see that the groups would be helpful. Say if you had one WAN and you've got New York and LA and you don't want devices peering across that, then you can set up groups at those locations to ensure the local delivery.
We have over 1,000 locations that we don't want them.
Exactly.
Inside.
Yes, exactly. And so that's where you would want to set up groups.
Yeah, that's it for the slide.
That would be to do that for everything. Okay.
Yeah. We can talk more
Okay.
if you, about your particular environment for sure. Yeah. Okay, now, how's this thing work?
Okay.
Step by step?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know there were animations. Just click through.
It's fine. I'll just click through.
Okay. Okay. So this image is just to kind of give you an idea of what happens when a download is initiated by the caller or on the device. So so remember the DO client is sitting on the Windows device. It initiates a download and then it immediately goes to the service, and some of the particulars of that service are it hits something called the GO endpoint. And the GO endpoint's main role is just to get the location or the region of the device and to return a country code so it knows where it's at. At that point, it talks to another microservice called key value. And this is where it's going to get some of the regional policies, mostly or any policies, yeah, that we want to set from the service, but mostly this is about bootstrapping or getting everything started. And then once it leaves the key value, it goes to something called content policy. I'm trying to remember these things. Content policy. It asks the service, does it know about this content? Is it cached already there? And if so, hand back the information that it knows about this content. In the cache or catalog, what is it? Catalog policy? Is that what I can't remember? Content policy. If content policy is not aware of this content, it then will reach out to something called the catalog management service. And behind the scenes, what that is when different publishers, so let's take Office for example, when Office wants to make sure that their content is ready when it is downloaded, they would have had to have published beforehand to our service. So when this flow happens, when it goes to that content management service, we know about that content and we can say, oh, yep, we know about this. And here's the metadata information about that particular piece of content. So we can then proceed. And proceeding really is all about, okay, now we have the information that we need, essentially this metadata information, to then go look for peers for this particular piece of content to do that, we use the discovery service to know essentially which array to go get the list of peers from. And when that all happens, a list of peers are returned to the client with the metadata information. Before any content is downloaded by the client, the signature of that metadata file is verified. And before any piece is downloaded from any peer, it's also verified using a piece, like in 1 megabyte chunks, using this pieces hash file that we have created. So that's kind of the general flow of how all that works. I know it'd be easier if it was all based in this diagram, but I just wanted to walk you through it a bit. Shashir or Andy or Brandon, do you want to add any more details to any of that? Is there any, I know I kind of brushed over it a bit, but that's the general like flow of how things work.
Maybe one thing to add is, so we do cert pinning to the DO cloud services. So if you have any proxies in your environment, there are some endpoints that should not be included in the TLS inspection.
Right, so I'm not sure the quality of the mics in the room, but everybody caught that? So the service does cert pinning, the client and the service are cert pinned. And so there are some of these endpoints, and I just put the link in the chat for these endpoints. And the reason I thought it was important to not only list kind of the flow, but the services, because if you look on that link, there are listed endpoints for both delivery optimization and Microsoft Connected Cache that we list that your network needs to have access to. Well, each of these services each of these endpoints plays a role in ensuring that we can find peers, ensuring that we can get that content metadata file so that then all of your peers know which pieces of content to download from which. And so this is definitely, especially with TLS inspecting proxies for both delivery optimization service and connected cache, this is one of the areas where we see customers hitting issues. Hey, how come I'm seeing no peering? Or we had a case where there was a customer who wasn't seeing HTTPS content coming, for example, peering. Well, that's because their TLS inspecting proxy was turned on and it was excluding access to one of the service endpoints. So then that breaks the whole thing.
Cool, that's all I had for that slide.
Okay, advancing here. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft Connected Cache. Quick time checker. So how many of us are still fully on-prem managed? Okay. How many of us are in a co-managed state here? A lot of us, right? So we have, as was referenced earlier, we have 2 versions of Microsoft Connected Cache. We have a version that we have been shipping with Configuration Manager for some years. It's super easy. We've got a screenshot here of the management change that needs to be here. We just click a simple box. You choose where you want to put or which drive you would like to put the cache folder, how much space you'd like to allocate for that cache folder. And then we also have client settings where you then tell these clients that are managed by this distribution point to then pull from that cache. So all of that configuration is automatic. It's very slick. It's easy. So if you're running Configuration Manager today, not sure if you're already running Connected Cache.
We're in a zero trust environment, so we can't use the config manager DPs because there's no core network anymore to connect. We're in the process of deploying actual MCC. You've worked with us. I'm from Amazon.
Are you Chase?
Yes.
Oh, hey, Chase.
Yes. We asked for a lot of weird things from you a year ago.
His
reputation precedes him.
Amazon's
This was probably 2 years ago, Chase and I.
Yeah, about 2
had
years
like
ago.
multiple.
We had to make a hacked MCC. We copied your Nginx configs into our existing proxy, but we're working on getting the official thing deployed.
Sounds like you left in reverse.
Well, they wouldn't give us the configs, so we just got them ourselves.
Okay, so, so now we move on to this next version, right? So we've got the version that can deploy with SCCM. We have this version now that can be deployed standalone, as maybe some people call it. And this version can be deployed to Windows client, Windows 11, Windows Server 2022 and 2025, and also Linux, Ubuntu and Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So basically, there's this portal within Azure where you're going to create the cache node instances through that resource. Then what you're going to do is you're going to you need to do some preparation on the device. For example, if it's Windows, you need to install WSL, you need to create users. I'll get to more of that later. If it's on Windows, if it's on Linux, for example, you need to create the cache drive folder. You need to give it get the proper access, etc. Then you're going to run a script that we have, and that's going to run on the cache server itself, which is going to take care of all the configuration. And then this is the part where it's not quite as slick as we would want it to be in some cases, as it is for the SCCM version to automatically configure clients. So within those 30 or so DO client settings, there's this DO cache host policy. Chase and others are familiar with that. That tells the delivery optimization client that this is an alternate source, an alternate CDN source for your content. Okay, and so you can manually, either through GP edit or registry key, or using Intune, if you're using Intune to manage those policies, to then manually set that. Or we have provided a more automated method using a DHCP custom option. You just set a text custom option within DHCP option 235. DO client looks for the values in that custom option and then sets that cache host on the fly. You won't see that anywhere in registry or anything, but if you look in the logs for DO, you would see that. We are working on more automated methods so that based on your site, for example, maybe using PNSSD, something like that, that per site, you could have your connected cache server deployed, and you don't have to worry about configuring for those devices for that site. I had heard you say that you have 1,000 sites, right? You can think of trying to I can feel your pain, trying to manage what's the cache host policy going to be for those 1,000 sites. And so we're working on making a more automated method for that to at least for this feature to try and help the connected cache for enterprise and education managed in Azure kind of equal to the ease that customers can use the config manager version. And so then what happens is that in that process flow that was described earlier, the whole dance of scanning for the content, and then Windows Update figures out, hey, I got to download this content. It talks to DO and says, okay, DO, get this content. DO now knows to get that content from connected cache. Now, connected cache, it doesn't precede the content, so it's warmed up by those client requests. So Therefore, if you want to ensure that clients at one of your sites, that most of them can get it from cache, you can do things, for example, and set some kind of, set some sort of policy so that clients can be in rings. And so the first ring can go and seed that cache content before, and then the subsequent requests come. Cache seeding is one of the features that we are looking at for the future. It requires a little more management. And I'll just kind of say this is on the, I guess this is on the deeper dive internal side. I hope that when you think of the world that we lived in before, where you could take a WSUS server and you could say, I want KB blah, 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 right? And you pull them. Well, think about the sizes of all those individual KBs, right? And all the content that you need to pull into that. DO and the way updates happen, you're only taking the content that you need. You're only sharing the content between peers that it needs. So when we think about cache seeding for Microsoft Connected Cache, we also want to be conscious of that and not force you just to pull all the content. And so that's why cache seeding is a little tricky. And then we would also like to think of it as that cache seeding for your environment should be unique, right? You don't need possibly all the apps at one site that you may need at another site. So we want to ensure things like that. So those are bits that we will help you get to. And then, of course, if for some reason cache server is unavailable, your devices will still fall back to CDN. Both delivery optimization and connected cache are designed to do no harm. So if, for example, can't find peers or there's something wrong with parent, it's still going to be able to download the content. If you can't find the cache, it's still going to be able to download from CDN.
So you actually have some fallback configurations for how long it'll try to.
Exactly. And I haven't shown this just because in the interest of time, but I can share in the deck. But this is the menu of all of the out of the box delivery optimizations that are set and the values for them. And this is our summary. And these settings are also all published online. But this is the list of the basic recommendations for the settings that we have as well. And fallbacks are definitely one of those, right? Because if you want to ensure that have a higher probability for your devices to pull from the cache rather than falling back to the CDN, then you want to delay that HTTP fallback. So how many of us are concerned with security? Any of us? Some of us probably.
It's baked in by default.
Yeah, so
Trust the system.
Microsoft, I'm sure many of us have heard of the Strategic Futures Initiative, right? Globally, Microsoft, we are very, very concerned about security. So I had asked this poll of asked, okay, the Windows update system ensures devices are updated securely, whether content is delivered by CDN or MCC. You may be wondering, okay, I have this content that's being cached within my network. How do I ensure that when it's at rest there, that it's not going to be tampered with, so that when my devices download and install that content, rather than downloading KB A that's supposed to help me, they download KB X that's going to pose my system. Well, so for the Windows Update content delivery pipeline, we have this end-to-end content protection. So earlier, Carmen was talking about the different measures that we take within DO to ensure that the hash of the file metadata that comes down is what was originally requested. The original requester, for example, Windows Update, it's got its own validation that it does on any of that content that it's installing as well. Windows Update, as you may or may not know today, is not being delivered by HTTPS. It's all coming HTTP. Well, that's because of the robust security end-to-end content measures that we have, because as we all may or may not know, you could put garbage in or garbage out, right? So it wouldn't, if it's, even if it's TLS at the source, you know, it could still be trash, so. So Windows, so I don't think that I had mentioned this very much from that previous flow kind of walkthrough. So we have one version, new version, the V2 version of Microsoft Connected Cache, and it's built as a Linux container. Chase had mentioned that. We run the same Linux version, the same Linux container on a Linux box. You can install the Ubuntu Red Hat, as I had mentioned before, or on Windows. And the way that we're running this on Windows today is using WSL 2.0. How many people in the room are using or playing with WSL? Okay, one. That's great. So WSL may be new for some of us. Windows subsystem for Linux. Have a conversation with Michael. We've kind of chatted about this. So the Windows subsystem for Linux allows you to essentially run Linux distros within Windows. And so what we do on the install of Microsoft Connected Cache on Windows is that we take care of downloading, creating this custom Ubuntu distro that's running inside WSL. It includes all the necessary settings, configuration that helps Microsoft Connected Cache to run. And there is a NAT layer that essentially helps the networking between the WSL distro that's running within its own private network within Windows, so that you can just access, for example, I can install Connected Cache on this laptop, right? And then I could put this laptop at one of my 1,000 sites, for example, just have it there running, and then you can configure those clients and then pull from it. That was one of the early asks that I had from customers when I shared Microsoft Connected Cache V2, this version, back in 2019. I need a way to support branch offices. I don't have servers. I need some way. So this version that runs on Windows, that's what that enables. Not going to go too much into detail here, but if you want to learn more about WSL, there's a link in the deck that you can click. There are all sorts of enterprise settings that you can use so that you can ensure that your machines that are running WSL are secured the way that you want them to be. And in the interest of time here, because I want to get us to talking about Linux and debugging and other stuff. So here it can run on Linux. Sorry, I'm just going to gloss over that. This is a little kind of guide that we built to help people understand, because there has been some question. Maybe everybody thinks I need to install Connected Cache everywhere. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're for your particular needs. Maybe you could simply use delivery optimization peering and get the results you want. I see Chase back there smiling. That may or may not be the case. As they say, your mileage may vary. So we built this guide, and we'll be publishing something like this online to sort of help give customers guidance and understand why they might just need one or why they might need both for the particular cases there. Okay, so now I'm going to bring up my companion, Adi, here, and he's going to talk about HTTPS delivery. Why the heck do we need HTTPS delivery if, as I said, content is delivered HTTP?
I could have sat up here, but I would just been nodding the whole time. So, yeah. So as Andy mentioned, we deliver via HTTP currently. But one of the big pushes for this next year is to support HTTPS delivery as well. Now, some of you may not be familiar with MCC, but you are familiar with HTTPS delivery. MCC is in a unique position where we have a container that's not necessarily on the host machine or not necessarily associated with the host machine. So putting a certificate up there is a little bit more complicated than it usually is. Now, right now, if you have MCC, it'll deliver via HTTP, but as of our GA version, which released last year, you now have a way to set up a TLS certificate on your machine to deliver via HTTPS. This is going to become more urgent this year because Intune will require HTTPS delivery of their apps starting in about July 2026. Now, announcement coming soon. That's a little sneak preview of what's to come. This is especially important if you use Intune for things like autopilot provisioning of your devices. That is all delivered via Intune Win32 apps. Now, an added benefit along with the Intune apps, if you set up HTTPS delivery, is Teams content is also only delivered via HTTPS. If you set up the TLS certificate on MCC, you will also be able to deliver Teams content. Next slide. So quick overview of how it works. Andy already showed this diagram. I've edited slightly to put how it works when an HTTPS URL is requested without a TLS certificate set up. So the good news is if you're not requesting Teams and Intune content, that you'll still be able to deliver via HTTP. So this diagram shows if you request the Teams content today, it will just fail over to CDN and CDN will deliver. Your delivery will still work. It's just dependent on the source of where you get it from. Now we want you to be able to not have this little red X here and deliver both. And that is why we have this process of setting up a TLS certificate. I'll go quickly through this. This was essentially the V1 of how to set up a TLS certificate. There are improvements on this coming, but we're doing a CSR process right now where you first start on your MCC and we have a script that allows you to generate a CSR, basically an unsigned certificate on your MCC. You will then pull that down through your folder system and however you usually sign certificates, whether it's through CA or self-signing, you would do that separately. And then there's another script to import the signed certificate back to MCC. MCC will handle all the rest. All you have to do is run those two scripts, generate a CSR, and import the cert once you have it signed. Next slide.
A question from the chat.
Yeah.
Someone is saying, so will we need to enable HTTPS for Intune content support, or is that automatic?
So starting when you have MCC and you download it the first time, does not have a TLS certificate set up. You will need to set it up separately in order to make sure you continue to get Intune content the rest of this year after that deadline comes.
And then just to add a little more to that. There'll be an Intune agent update essentially, right? Because just like the flows that we were describing earlier, Windows Update is a caller. Intune agent itself that's running on your devices is a caller. It's requesting content from DO to HTTP. That's going to change. They're going to flip it to HTTPS. They're making some CDN changes for that as well. But that's what's really driving this change. So this part that is being described here, admins will need to manage that. But the actual request coming HTTPS is going to be transparent to you. So at some point in the future, when it does flip, you won't even know.
Yeah.
Except for if you don't have connected cache configured for HTTPS and you notice that you're pulling more content from the cloud.
Do want to say you're going to make our security team very happy. The HTTP only was a big sticking point for them 2 years ago.
Well, there is no plan to make Woo content come HTTPS. So unfortunately, I'm not going to buy them a pony yet.
As long as we can say that something's going over HTTPS, it makes them happy.
Yeah.
That's sort of why we started feature two, because it's Intune and Teams. We expect other content providers to sort of follow suit in the future. So you set it up today, you'll have it for whenever those providers do the same
Yeah,
thing.
Teams is gonna come HTTPS. Does that mean Amazon's gonna start using Teams with their?
Well, we've been using Teams, but we're going to Zoom now. We'll still have Teams.
Breaking my heart for it.
Can't give you everything.
I know many of you haven't done it. I wanted to go over some troubleshooting tips as you go through the process. So Andy, I'll have you flip back and forth as I go through each one. So the first one is with the generate CSR process. You flip back. So this process right here requires you to run a script with a set of parameters that we have documented. It's essentially what goes into a certificate. It's your subject common name, your SAN, a lot of other small details about your region. And that will allow the MCC to set up that TLS certificate once you import it. So a lot of customers will put in an IP address that they think is associated with their host machine, but it has to match. You have to put the same one in the CSR as what is imported. So just remembering what you put as your host name is a big sticking point. Next one. This step here, forwarding port 43 traffic, opening port 43. It's in documentation. Some customers forget to do it, but we have specific commands to allow that traffic to come in. This allows you to, the MCC to interact differently once you have the TLS certificate set up versus if you don't. Third is I just published a bunch more documentation about how to validate the MCC delivery of Intune apps once you have it set up. So if you go back, Andy, you would finish this step, you'd import MCC, you get kind of a validation that it worked. But to make sure that your clients will receive apps after it's set up, we just implemented or just added that documentation with a bunch of commands to verify that that is actually working. And then last couple, Andy. Two big requirements that come when you do it. Right now, we only support CRT file types. In the future, we're looking to make that more flexible, but if you can convert that or ask your CA to give you a CRT certificate, that is the way we have it set up. And then finally, step 4 or the tip 4, and if you go back. Sorry, there you go. Thanks. This is sort of this green and the certificate store here is once you sign that certificate, it has to be a root certificate or a certificate of any type that's also on your MCC. That's sort of the magic behind TLS communication is that in both stores, you have trusted certificates that it either cert pins to or chains up to. So just keep that in note. Once you sign that CSR, that your client devices also have something that at least chains up to it. So that's usually like an enterprise certificate. That's already the case. Just make sure that is the case so that your communication will work effectively. All right, that was the last tip. I will just drop some hints about what's coming soon. We know this deadline is coming for a lot of customers really quickly. So we want to give some more features to it to make your life easier. First one that I've heard most from customers is the ability to bring your own certificate in. Right now, it's a CSR process that you generate on device. This was sort of to protect the private key as you do the whole process. But now we're implementing a feature for you to bring in your own certificate and manipulate it whatever way you want. This may make it easier for you to manage if you already have set certificates and set renewal cycles. We're going to set up a process to make it easy for you. Similarly, asynchronous renewal will be important if you script this. So in this example here, you have potentially hundreds of nodes. It would be a lot of effort to do that manually. So we are going to allow for some easy scripting where you can do that over potentially hundreds of nodes in one single process. Then lastly, right now, you're only able to monitor it from the command line. We want to set that up in the MCC portal, in Azure portal, where you manage the nodes today, that you can also see how your certificate's doing and whether the expiry is coming.
Yes, Michael. Absolutely. Thanks.
Yeah, did I miss any questions?
There's one question online I want to confirm.
Yeah.
Does the SCCM version of MCC, will it support TLS?
Yeah, and you wanna think?
Yeah, I knew that question was coming and I was gonna address it. It doesn't today, it will soon. I can't tell you how soon, but we are working on it.
And I think we can expect it before that deadline comes in, with plenty of time to
Yeah.
prepare.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So with FPCM only being updated once a year now, though, will that be like a standalone thing we would have to do on the side in theory, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're gonna ship a hotfix. There'll be a process. You just have to basically uncheck the box, which will uninstall it. Drop in new package, check the box again, which will reinstall it.
That's easy. Thank you.
Well, I guess it's easy depending on how many DPs you got, right? I don't know.
Only 160.
Yeah, okay.
We're still at about 600. Yeah, down from the 1,200. That's pretty good.
Okay, debugging and common issues. I'm gonna hand it off again to you. You, Carmen. I'll take this.
Yeah. So we just wanted to highlight some of the like top issues that we see coming through for customers. The first is on DHCP. So when you are using DHCP, you can use this, I mentioned it earlier, as a group ID, or you can also use it with your MCC configuration. So in any case, of course, you want to verify that you have access to the DHCP server. Some more than likely, if there's issues, there's probably something going on with the proxy, making sure that you're allowing proper endpoints. We touched on the TLS inspection, so that's something that you should look at. Again, another suspect area is having or dealing with the firewall, so checking that specifically around the local policy merge rule that might be at play there. All these things could be causing issues with the DHCP connection. So that's one thing. Another is, I touched on it, indicators that the proxy configuration is problematic. Yeah, just making sure that, especially if you're using a cloud proxy like a Zscaler, we recommend that for the endpoints that for communication between the DO client and service, that you can bypass those endpoints, because we need to have those, as we talked about, we rely on the IP addresses to identify these peers. So that is a critical piece. I'm trying to go fast because I see the clock. Another question is around increasing the likelihood of retrieving content from P2P or MCC. So making sure, taking a look at that download mode, how you're set up. Also, I'll have you look at I think Andy talked about this, there's delay policies for each of those. And so you can, before it falls back to the CDN, there are configurations where you can set the delays on that. And then group download mode may be pulling from different external IP addresses. So we also talked about that, how it can go across boundaries, just making sure that you understand where you're setting up your peer group, whether it's in the local subnet. If you're doing it with the enter ID, you can use STCM boundary groups, that sort of thing. I did put little asterisks on the first three because it's kind of a segue into the next slide, but we are doing work on the DO troubleshooter. So hopefully you all know about that. If not, I put
Rudy
a link
does.
in there.
Thanks, Rudy.
Okay. So we are improving the troubleshooter. We found that customers think this is a pretty valuable tool and we want to keep investing in it. So just to give you a highlight of some of the things that are coming. mainly around improving the outputs around MCC and really around DHCP messaging. So when we do hit an issue with the firewall with that local policy merge, for example, we want to highlight some of those things. Things that we know about, we want to surface to you to do a better job at guiding you on actionable steps to go take care of these things. So yeah, that's, I know we're at time. Those were kind of the focus areas. I was going to show the tool, but that I think we ran out of time and I'm not projecting anyway. So, this is the old one probably, but
Yeah, this isn't
it's
the new
just
one.
just know that there is a new one coming soon, and this is a great place to start to just understand, if nothing else, the health check at the beginning to see, can my device talk to the DO service? From there, it's just about tweaking and fine tuning. So anyway, that was the major point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, so you can see here that I've run the deliver optimization troubleshooter with the health check. And it's showing values for these different settings. And for example, I could run it with the
Yeah,
with
these
the-
are all the switches.
with these different options. I can get an output for P2P, for connected cache. That'll show me. And then as you see here, the coming soon. So with that, we are at time. I want to be conscious of that. Greg, would be okay, just take a few minutes if anybody has any other closing.
Yeah, definitely. Any lingering questions? We can take some now. And of course, I think you guys might be in the chat as well. If you
Take some online, but if anybody has any questions that they want to ask right now.
Hey, Matthew, the link that I posted in the chat is what that aka.ms goes to. It's aka.m as in Mike, S as in Sierra,
yeah.
not X, right?
Typo there.
Okay, great. Apparently, we told you everything you need to know, but if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to talk. And if you have any questions after class, Chase or Michael or anybody else.
Oh, the meeting's being scheduled.
Here to help. Okay. Thank you very much once again for having us here. Appreciate it.
Thanks.